Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. As I've mentioned before, there are a lot of people making a lot of content out there, so if you're engaging in my discussions, it is still very much appreciated. And continuing on with the expanded scope of narcissism, how I got from there to here, I'm going to recap just a little bit and then continue on how things developed up until today. And I hope you find it interesting. I think that some of it is fascinating. I am kind of even at a loss of how I ended up in some of the places that I did and knew some of the people that I've known. So, I told you about a book called As a Man Thinketh. And if you haven't gotten a copy, please do. And I think you can get it free online. I think there are PDF versions of that book online, and it will rewire what the narcopath has attempted to do to you and what the narcopaths in charge are attempting and have been very successful in doing to all of us, the people that are in charge of government and in charge of banking and media and even our school systems. These people have been social engineering us for a very long time, and those of us that are having these discussions know when you see this. And I think it's really I think it's interesting that a lot of us see with the narcopaths around us, and most of the time it's our family or marriages, the narcopaths around us, when we see this, then we begin to see the bigger picture of the psychopaths that are in charge of everything. And it can be a really tough red pill to swallow when you're having to deal with this all at once, when you realize that you have been engineered and things have been manipulated, and when we attempt to escape the nasty, nasty things that can happen on both fronts. And so we continue to have these discussions because we're not completely free of either of them yet. So I mentioned that the book. I gave you some. I'm going to give you some pieces of the story that are kind of personal. I'm going to try remember everything that you put on the internet might stay on the internet. So continuing on, the narcopaths that are around us, the narcopaths that are in charge. Some of us have begun to wake up. Mine has been a very, for lack of a better term, a very spiritual journey. There are things that happen that don't always have an explanation, and really they don't even really require an explanation all the time. I just know that things around me are different than they are around other people. And it has been since whenever. I don't even know how long. Remember, I know this incarnation, and I may divulge a little more information of before this incarnation to you at some point in time. Not today, though. So I knew something was different, something was off. I knew that I didn't belong. I don't know what it is that I did to. I don't think that's even correct, too. There's. How do I start this? I'm stumbling over my words. Being a spiritual universe, we have tools at our disposal that the narcopath doesn't have. The only reason for pain or suffering is to teach you not to have pain or suffering. So we do these things. We find ourselves in situations that we have something to do with. We're not handling them correctly. Remember, this isn't victim blaming again. I'm trying to give you some power over some control over your situation, your life, your being, that we have relinquished to the people that don't have best intentions for us. So when we begin to wake up, there's deeper meanings to this. This is, I'm sorry. A couple of people I talked to, close friends, they termed themselves as atheists, and I would term myself an atheist as well because I don't believe in a God, especially the desert religion, Abrahamic gods. I see almost no value in that. Whether it was true thousands of years ago, I don't know. Today, it does not seem to lend itself to really anything that's healthy that I see. So, and if you can't reconcile that with me, put that away. My belief system's different than yours. I'll try not to disparage you for yours, and you try not to disparage me for mine. On that note, I'm not trying to get into in conflict or down in the comments section. I don't want to have differing opinions we can have differing opinions on some things, but on the narcissistic issue or the narcissists or the psychopaths that are in charge, it's exactly the same. So I don't want to get into debate. What I'm doing is I'm inviting people that think like me, that have been through the same experiences like me, and we can become stronger in this battle that we are in right now. So with that, I'll continue. So anyway, so part of it, I grew up around not a very religious family, but there was a lot of religion around me, mostly Christian religion, and there were a lot of churches where I grew up, and there was a lot of corruption and chaos and cruelty. A lot of people that I noticed were very unhappy. So to me, that didn't look like there was anything of value in that. After my research, it just didn't seem to ring true at all, and so I continued on with my journey. Went to went to anti-Christian and into the darker. And this is part of the story. You're just, like I said, if you don't like it, you can turn it off and go. But I think it's interesting. I went from one side to the other, and I realized that both sides were just controlled opposition. And I've met some very influential people on that dark side, and man, they take it 100% seriously. So anyway, with that being said, neither one of these things worked, and nothing was proving any. It wasn't fruitful. Nothing was coming out of this that was happy. And I'm still dealing with the narcopaths this time. I hadn't found the book As a Man Thinketh yet, and I hadn't run into anything that was going to change what I was doing. And the change, and I know this is trite, I know you've heard it before, but the change does have to start with us. Every time, like the change that you're having now, that we're having at this time, we're not changing the narcissist at all, but we're changing how we deal with them. So that's the power is going to happen where we're sitting. It's not going to happen anywhere else. It's not going to happen in your bank account or if they start to behave, because they're not going to, and they're never going to reconcile with you, and they're never going to admit their mistakes, and they're never going to apologize. But the path that I went looked like a religious path, and it just didn't prove anything. The people that I met, none of them seemed to be genuinely happy. The ones that looked happy seemed like they were pretending. And then back in the 80s with the satanic panic, I got involved with some very influential groups, and man, they're a mess. Oh my God. I didn't know anything about them, and as I started to realize, we were on a way different wavelength than them, I began to make my exit from that really pretty quickly. So, but I know a lot about it. So, none of those things seemed to make a difference. Only when I began to work completely on myself and change my habits, and when I was sure that my side of the street was clear and things still weren't okay, it's a long way. We're talking about 30 years here more, that the people around me were causing us havoc. So we've got to clean up our side. This can take decades too, and there are things that we have to do to become healthy in our minds, and there are people who are thwarting that progress at all times, and that's the narcopaths, the psychopaths that are around, that are these demons, these energy vampires, and I told you the one that I was born to was just God. I've got video. You can go watch it. Watch how she acts. I mean, that was only just a sliver of it. And the one that I was married to, and her nasty, nasty hippie mother. God, I hate hippies so much. Just gross people. They're the same way. They're infected with, if I can borrow a term, the Jezebel spirit. I saw that this morning from a guy I really respect. The Jezebel spirit, which is just a demonic, this entity that just is desirous to tear. I think they say it's to tear down men, but I think it's to tear down everyone, or everyone, other women, children, families. They are only looking out for themselves, because that's what a narcopath does. They enjoy your misery. Make no mistake about it. The narcopath enjoys every bit of misery. It fuels them. Your misery is their happiness, which is completely backwards to the way we're supposed to be handling things. So, anyway, I went through the churches, and I went through the opposite of the churches, and I looked at this and I studied it. And at one point, I actually had this is kind of funny too. I had a very expensive and extensive collection of books of occult matters that you can't get most of this now. And and I was at one of their functions, and finally I was like, y'all don't seem to really be happy. Nobody really seems to be this little Dungeons and Dragons crowd. You don't seem to be really progressing anywhere. I said, is this, if you want money, you don't need to make a ritual. You need to get a job. If you want love, if you want kindness, you need to maybe lose some weight. If you would, if you're looking for a girlfriend, or, cut your hair or something. Excuse me. What kind of allergies in February. Anyway, none of this made any sense. So I went through all of this trial and error, and the self-help books and Christianity and churchianity and the satanic panic and all this stuff, and realized the whole time, all this stuff, unraveling it, came down to the narcissist. And this is the next book I was going to tell you about, by the way. Oh, God, I'm so itchy. So, The Wizard of Oz and Other Narcissists. Get this book. After you get the As a Man Thinketh, this was the next one, too. And this isn't all in order. But anyway, when I started to realize that that's the way these people are behaving, and start to clean them out, clean them away, and move on, everything changes. And I mean, every single thing begins to get much, much better when you get away from a Jezebel spirit, too. So, all right, I'm back again. If your nose itches, does that mean you smell trouble? Am I being cursed by one of these Jezebel spirits today? Probably. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they hate it that I escaped their little system. Anyway, from going from this Hegelian dialect that just pushes you from one side to the other, you never solve the problem. You start to become aware of the people that are around you, these narcopaths, psychopaths, and you start to clean them up. Things will heat up. They do get really, really angry. You have disturbed the demons in these entities. Again, they've lied themselves out of existence, so I don't know who's occupying that body. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm going to tell you, you better start listening to me on both counts. Number one, on the narcopaths around us, and number two, the narcopaths that are in charge, because I know I'm right about something, and this I am. There's something that's happening in our entire existence through all of us right now. There's a general awakening that's happening, and we're gonna have to stay on top of it, because it's gonna get worse before it gets better. Okay, I said it. Things are gonna get worse before it gets better. Just like when I began to question the narcopath that I was married to, things began to get really, really bad. They pull out all the stuff, the smear campaign, the gaslighting, talking about you, stabbing you in the back, lying to your face, doing everything they can do to upset you, trying to get you off balance. Thankfully, I had enough control that I didn't, and I won. I finally got my life back, and they weren't able to use that same that spirit against me. They weren't able to turn it where I behaved like them, at least not where they could see I was really pissed too. But anyway, to finish up here, this is a spiritual universe. Things happen around us, and you need to understand that when you're thinking, it's bringing these things into existence. Okay, there are reasons why around the narcopaths. Karma is a very, very sophisticated issue. I don't even pretend to know. I don't even know my own. I won't pretend to know yours. So these are sophisticated and issues that you'd have to take up with someone who knows it probably more than myself. So anyway, my point is on this one that the systems that we see, most of them are corrupted. If it's not working for you, you may want to put that system away and find another one. One thing that we do know is that if we understand what a narcissist does to us in our personal and close personal lives, what they're doing to us when they're in positions of power, at least we know who the enemy is at this point. I think that's kind of where a lot of us are. So anyway, my point again is to reiterate, it is a spiritual universe. There are things that are happening that I don't understand, and I have so many stories to tell you, you wouldn't believe. You just wouldn't you wouldn't, but I'm going to tell you some of them as we go. So, what you think about, you bring about, folks. Okay, and things are in the middle of a big change, and man, it's not going to bode well for the people that have been doing the things they've been doing to us. So, anyway, wanted to come back with that. That'll be the next one. Again, these aren't going to be with any frequency. It's as I think about it and as it comes up, I will begin to I'll continue on with the story as we go. So, all right. Well, I'm going to sign off now. I hope to see y'all again real soon. Thanks.